Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian. I'm here today at the James Julia Auction House. I'm taking a look at some of the guns that they're going to be selling in their upcoming October of 2015 premiere auction. And one that they happen to have here is both interesting and a little bit unfortunate. The unfortunate part is that this was actually sporterized by someone, which is pretty unusual for the kind of gun it is. The interesting part is that this is actually one of Paul Mauser's own personal prototype rifles from the very early 1900s. One of the things that Paul Mauser was kind of obsessed with was making a functional and successful self-loading rifle for the standard 8mm Mauser cartridge. He probably would have been happy with any full-power rifle cartridge, but 8mm Mauser was what the German army used, so that's what he was working with. He tried, in total, something like 17 different ways to do this, and none of them ended up being successful. Well, this is an example of his fourth attempt. Very early on, he's looking at all sorts of different ways to operate and cycle, to lock and to cycle a self-loading rifle. And right off the bat, he was able to scrap a couple of ideas. He had to get rid of toggle locking because of patent conflicts with Gewehr. They wrote off long-stroke gas pistons. And what he ended up really working with more were recoil designs. Short recoil at first and long recoil after that. In 1901, he had a flapper-locked short recoil rifle that he was building in response to a request for German Army rifles to test. And that ultimately kind of blew up on him. And he lost an eye in a shooting incident with that rifle. Which didn't stop him. He came right back. That was 1901, and this rifle was made in 1902. Now for this one, he has a much safer, a much stronger action. It's a long recoil action, which would be just like the most common gun using long recoil is a Browning A5, Auto 5 shotgun. Also the Remington 8 and 81 rifles, the Shosho light machine gun. These are all examples of long recoil guns, and we'll explain exactly what that means in a minute here. But this is a long recoil action with a rotating bolt. So this would be a very, very safe rifle to shoot, very strong. He did submit this rifle to German Army testing where it failed. All of his self-loading rifles would ultimately fail to take over. The problems with this one were not so much of it extracting and ejecting too energetically, but rather the opposite. He had a lot of sluggishness and problems getting cartridges to extract and eject. Now, his solution to this was to use greased or lubricated ammunition. German Army was not willing to accept that, so they came to an impasse, and he went on to try other different methods. But this particular rifle, like I said, it's one of the 1902 prototypes that he made. The only marking on it is a serial number 15, and at some point in its past, it has been sporterized. So this started out as a regular, full-length stock military rifle, military sights on it, the works. And at some point, someone replaced the stock with this shorter stock. It's got a pistol grip back here. It's got a cheek pad on the side. They replaced the sights with flip-up express sights and put on a new front sight. Now, the gun mechanically is intact and seems to work actually very well. So it's this interesting amalgamation. It's this really cool mechanical prototype directly from the hands of Paul Mauser, with Bubba in the intermediary restocking it. So why don't we take a closer look at the action, because long recoil guns are fairly scarce, and this one's kind of different. All right, this, guys, is not going to be disassembly so much as simply showing you how the action works. I've been messing with this rifle, and I haven't been able to figure out exactly how to take it apart, and short of having Paul Mauser here to ask, which I'm a few decades too late to do, I am going to leave it assembled rather than risk damaging it. However, there's still some pretty cool stuff that we can take a look at. Now, long recoil means that we have a rotating bolt here, which is locked into the barrel, and when the gun fires, the entire barrel mechanism slides backwards from the recoil energy of the bullet flying out. The bolt is locked into it, and the two stay together as they come all the way back about this far, the full length of the cartridge. At that point, the bolt gets latched into the rear and stays there, and then one of the two mainsprings pushes the barrel forward. As the barrel goes forward, it slides off the now empty brass case. The case is then ejected when the barrel's far enough. And when the barrel locks all the way forward, it trips a release that lets the bolt go. The second recoil spring propels the bolt forward past the magazine where it picks up a cartridge, chambers it, and you're ready to fire. So the advantages of long recoil are that it's very strong. Pressure is basically zero by the time the gun cycles, by the time the action unlocks. You will notice on long recoil guns that they appear to have very weak ejection. The cartridge cases just kind of go plop out the side. The reason for that is the ejection is actually being done by the barrel going forward rather than under full energy of the bolt opening, as you would see on most guns. So even though it looks like it's weak ejection, on a long recoil gun, that's not something that need concern you about how well the gun is working. Instead, it's just kind of a nice feature that your brass all comes in a nice little pile near the gun. The downsides are that long recoil guns tend to be a bit more complex. You have to have 2 recoil springs instead of 1. For a target type rifle, you have to be concerned that you do have the barrel moving with every shot, which does have the potential for accuracy issues. No idea if that was the case here. They never got the gun running well enough to get to that point of testing. So here is our ejection port. Here's our rear sight. We'll get to this bolt handle in a moment. When the gun fires under normal automatic operation, the whole barrel assembly comes back like this, and it's going to come all the way back and lock the bolt in the rear. These are often very strong springs. There we go. All right, now you can see the bolt back there locked to the rear. Here we have our empty magazine. The gun is now locked open, I believe because it has an empty magazine, although again this is a prototype rifle, so I can't be 100% sure on this. But I'm going to pop the magazine down with my special gunsmithing tool here. Now the hold open is still engaged, and now when I move the selector lever here, when I pop that up, the bolt will close. So that allows me to reload the rifle with a stripper clip, and once I'm all done, then I can put the gun back into action. Now, and by the way, this also acts as a safety lever, so I can dry fire the gun now. If I flip this all the way over to the right, it blocks the trigger. So that's part of what this rear lever does. Now, in kind of shades of the German Gewehr 41 trials, we also have this bolt handle on the side, and it's possible to operate this rifle manually. So what you do is actually lift up the bolt handle like so. That disconnects the springs that push on the barrel. There's one of them down here. There's probably a second one over here. Now, when I pull the handle back, I'm moving the bolt and the barrel together like they would normally run automatically, but I'm not fighting the spring on the barrel. You can see this isn't moving anywhere because it's only under tension from the bolt spring, which is not intended to be strong enough to run the whole action. At any rate, I can pull this back all the way, and my bolt is locked to the rear just as before. So go through the same procedure to get the bolt forward. The exact details of this I haven't quite all worked out yet. And I'm a little bit hesitant to mess with it too much just because this is truly a one-of-a-kind rifle. So I think I will go ahead and leave it there. Under this cover are some interesting things, I have no doubt, but I'm not sure how to get that off. So I will leave that up to whoever ends up purchasing this rifle for themselves. Well, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Didn't expect I'd ever see one of these, and I think this takes the cake for the least thoughtful sporterization ever done. Despite that, it is still a very cool example of a prototype rifle that you'll probably never see anywhere else. So if you'd like to have this one yourself, take a look at the link in the description text below. That will take you to the Julia catalog page on it. You can see their pictures, their description, their history of the testing and development of these guns. And if you'd like it, place a bid online, or you can come up here and enjoy the auction in person. Thanks for watching.